Hey, hey, Denver builders, how are you today? My name is Marcin. I'm COO at RedStone Oracle and co-founder of ETH Warsaw. Hope you are not too bored, and if you are, I would try to energize you a little bit and open your head for some food for thoughts with the future architecture of Web3 and DeFi with on-demand oracles. But before I start, I would like to ask you three very quick questions, if you will. The first one, hands up everyone who has ever heard of Arweave, the chain. All right, a bunch of you, keep your hands up. Now the second, who has ever used it? Okay, a couple. And who knows how it works under the hood? Okay, smaller. Okay, good. So I'm going to chat a bit about Arweave in a second, but first, let me tell you a bit more about RedStone and why it can be quite disruptive in the market. So first, last year we raised $7 million from a couple of tier 0 investors. So we basically conveyed our message to them, and they believed this is like one of the futures of the architecture in Web3. Our team has been to 7 hackathons last year, won 5 of them with adaptations of RedStone. This one is pretty cool. It's called Lens Score, which calculates the score for a given user based on Lens activities, and then it gives you on chain. So you can use, for example, for anti-bots, anti-spanning, or airdrop like decisions, who should get it or not. Last year we've been to 16 in-person conferences. This picture is from ETH Warsaw. So we always try to ask builders in physical world like what they need to be on top of the trends. And right now we are a team of 22 people. 80% of us are developers, so heavy engineering team. So that's where our focus goes. Before I dive in, a quick recap on oracles. So oracles deliver various types of data on-chain for smart contracts and dApps. This statement is true. However, right now it's almost only price feeds if you look under the hood. So how it works in practice, you've got data sources. The oracle pulls the data from them and then delivers it on a target blockchain, for example, Ethereum, Avalanche, Layer 2s, and then dApps on these chains, on these ecosystems can use it for any kind of application it wants to build. Okay, so what's the problem over here? Seems sound, right? So apparently we are, in our opinion, in 80s when it comes to oracles. So this is a very simple idea of just taking the data, pushing it on chain in intervals. But to innovate, we have to basically stop thinking in 2020 DeFi summer terms, right? It's 2023, we need to innovate. We need to create something new. So currently you need to cover gas costs even when you don't utilize the data. It sits idle on Ethereum or other chain. You don't use it, you still have to pay the gas costs, right? We cannot build the next generation of financial system using that, right? So the problems, to put it on the slides. First, oracles have limited scalability because of the costs. They cover only a small subset of tokens. Right now, approximately 100 price feeds. So it's only price feeds with 10 minutes interval, which is a very long period, considering like the DeFi. On top of that, oracles push the same data to multiple chains. So take BTC USD pair, they have to push the same data to multiple chains, so they have to cover the cost on multiple ecosystems. DeFi potential is limited by oracles, especially on L2s like ZK Sync, which is one of our strategic partners, Arbitrum Polygon, and speed-optimized chains like Avalanche, Phantom, and also like Ethereum. So before I go into on-demand oracles, I'd like to talk a bit about on-chain storage costs, because my claim is that it's expensive. So let me first break it down. So cost of storing 1 gigabyte on-chain on various ecosystems. Let's dive in. If you take Bitcoin, storing 1 gigabyte costs approximately $2.7 million, which is extremely expensive. But if you look into Ethereum and EVM, it's almost $80 million. That's crazy. I mean, because these chains weren't created to storing data, right? But people keep pushing data on it. So that's counterintuitive. If you look into chains that are specifically designed for data storage, for example, Arweave, it costs just $3. So there is no M in here, it's not million, it's like regular $3. So there are some references from which I took that data from. So I would like to talk about the magic of cold data. For those who are not familiar with this field in the EVM transaction, cold data is the read-only byte addressable space. So this picture is from Ethereum white paper. If you look into state 1 and state 2, you have a transaction from 2, and there is also value and data. And for example, in the cold data, you can keep function arguments. In this case, it's number 2 and Charlie. So both optimistic rollups and ZK rollups batch raw transaction data as cold data and post its state to Ethereum, right? So it's widely used pattern already by layer 2s that revolutionize right now the space, as you know. So what generates the total transaction cost in EVM? So here you can see on a very simple price list. It's also from Ethereum yellow paper. So the transaction itself is 21,000 gas. Cold data byte is only 16, so each byte. So it's not just 16, depending on how many bytes you store in there, but it's unparallelly cheaper than the other positions. Storage read is cheap, but we are not talking about that over here. Storage write. Look, the transaction costs almost the same as storage write, which is like 20,000 gas, and creating a contract is the most expensive, as you might be aware of that. So now going to Arweave. So for those who didn't put up the hand up, Arweave allows you to store data permanently, sustainably, with a single upfront fee. Sounds like what? Permanently? There's no something like permanently in computer, right? In computer science, basically. So it's a bold statement, and they are actually committed to store your data for at least 200 years. It's not like 200 years and it disappears. It's calculated for 200 years. They had to put a number over there. So it's affordable storage compared to generalistic chains. It's long-term. It guarantees you long-term availability by data probing and endowment fund. So how it works in practice. If you want to store something on Arweave and you have to pay, let's call it $2, first, only 20% of these $2 would go to the miner to take that transaction into a block, and 80% would be released over time to the miners to keep that data in a kind of like endowment effect. So in comparison, for example, to Filecoin, in Filecoin, you have to keep on paying as the data is stored on-chain. Over here, you just pay once. Okay, you pay more, but you don't have to care about that anymore. It just goes there and stays. At least that's the claim, and so far, no data has been missing. So I truly recommend Arweave's yellow paper. It's quite simple and digestible if you want to dig deeper. So Arweave's consensus mechanism is called second proofs of random access. And funny enough, between the 5th and 6th of March, so very soon, they are going to update their consensus. It's called like Arweave 2.6. So it's similar to demerge. So at a certain block height, they are going to switch to a new consensus mechanism. It's also going to be quite important for the whole ecosystem. And it's time tested. So Arweave has been storing data for 4 years already on the mainnet, and none data has been missing. To prove the validation of Arweave, recently Instagram and Meta announced it would launch in-app NFTs based on Polygon, but the images themselves and the files would be stored on Arweave. So what's the current market trend in DeFi? DeFi has been getting more and more sophisticated with the growth of derivatives, perps, and options. If you look to DeFi Llama or everything that's happening right now, these are the dominant players over there. So despite the whole DeFi market shrinked 5 times over the last year, those types of protocol doubled in their TVL. So you can easily see that the old boys are losing and the new guys are getting a lot of traction. As you imagine, more sophisticated protocols require high-frequency diversified data, which is too expensive to push on chain. So current players, incumbents on the Oracle market cannot deliver that. And now, let me bring you quite a bold statement over here that hasn't been present so far. In the Oracle market, there is no one solution fits it all approach. Truly, guys, like if we go to the conferences and we talk to builders, it turns out that it's not like, hey, I just need data on chain, because then it's about frequency, the type of data, how it should be stored, how much it should be secured, and so on and so forth. Hence, you should adjust your approach to the needs of builders. Therefore, RedStone offers 3 unique models to match users' needs. And here, let's look into them on an example of our strategic partner, ZK Sync. So the first is the on-demand model called RedStone Classic, which I'm going to dig into the most. It's best option for most of the DeFi and Web3 use cases, as we were testing it with the builders on hands. However, it's not always the case that they like it. Sometimes it doesn't match their needs. For example, we've been talking quite a lot with GMX, which is for sure like a prominent platform, especially recently. So we created like a dedicated front-running proof model, which is fantastic and tailor-made for options and perpetuals, where the price has to be delivered as soon as possible. Third, last but not least, we also have like the Oracle, the classic Oracle model, where we push data on-chain. It's for big players that would like to launch on other chains that current oracles are not present at. So to give you an example, we are going to be live on Polygon ZK EVM from day one on the mainnet. We've been the first oracle to be available on ZK Sync, Scroll, and a couple of other chains. So we want to be very on top of the innovation. We don't look back, we look up front. So let's go to the first model, RedStone Core model on-demand oracle. This is the most important slide today. It's kind of packed. At the moment, it's pretty empty, but it's going to get packed, so watch out. First, we have data provider nodes, for example, RedStone, Kaiko, Flow Traders, Bearing Waters, and others. And these guys are professionals when it comes to aggregating data. They take their price feeds or other types of data, like volatility or others. They put it as a package, like a data package. They sign it, and they throw it to data delivery network that we created. It's our proprietary technology. It's open source, so you can check inside. But to give you a high-level overview, it's consisting of Streamer network, which is a kind of like a decentralized PubSub network, a really cool infrastructure you can look at. Arweave for like consistency. So once we use the data, we throw it on Arweave, so you can always come back to it. And our own nodes that work a little bit like a gateways, so that you can easily access the data. All right, so the data is a data delivery network with the signature. What happens next? So imagine we have Aave, like very known protocol, and there's Homer Simpson, our DeFi degen, that would like to create like a position with Aave or liquidate or whatever. Aave frontend, so like Aave the dApp with its ethers.js would fetch the data with the signature, and to Homer Simpson transaction, it would attach that data to call data field. And then it ends up on-chain, for example, on Ethereum, on Avalanche, on Canto. So we are the first and only oracle to be on Canto, Arbitrum, ZK Sync, you name it. As long as it's EVM, it's going to be out of the box like this. You just have to verify whether the signature checks, but we haven't encountered any single problem with EVM chains so far. And you can use it right away. So how much it differs from the original model, once again, in original model, you would push data on-chain, and the dApp would query the data that is on-chain already posted. Over here, it's on demand. So only when there's a transaction that actually needs that data, that's the moment the data is sent on the target ecosystem. So, for example, the RedStone signs in data delivery network I said are the gateways. So anyone can spin up their own. So it's like an infra. If you need, for example, a dedicated gateway for liquidation bots or something else, it's open source, you can bring it up. So the data packages are also verified on-chain with the signatures. So you've got the same level of security at a fraction of cost in the whole flow. And as you might notice right now, it's transparent, it's open. Anyone can join and spin up their nodes. So we essentially changed the naming over here. It's not Oracle anymore. It's rather Oracle's marketplace. Because we are one of the first provider, like RedStone, but we open it to everyone. And if you claim that you have good data, for example, you're a market maker or whatever other party, you can just join, put your collateral in RedStone tokens that is subject to slashing in case you don't deliver the data, and join the game and earn fees, right? Because the dApps in the end, so in this case Aave, wouldn't pay to RedStone. It would pay to data providers that it picked, that it trusts, and that it uses for its protocol and basically the whole flow. For me, it's pretty cool, but I'm biased, of course. You can check out, as I said, the whole code, but it's not up to that only. What about non-EVM chains? So apparently a month ago, we announced our second non-EVM integration for Starknet. We are very dedicated to that ecosystem as well, as it believes in the Ethereum ethos. We are right now working with Fuel, so Fuel Network to create a dedicated connector to them. It should be up very soon. The first non-EVM that we created was Stacks, because Stacks came to us and said, hey, like current oracles cannot deliver to us. Can we bring your architecture to our chain? And they did it themselves. So we didn't even use our developer resources. They created it themselves, or Aleph Zero. If you have any other like non-EVM ecosystem you'd like to have Oracle at, feel free to DM us, and we'll be very happy to also deploy our architecture over there. Later, if I have a time, I will show you our showroom.redstone.finance, where you can easily browse through ecosystems that Redstone has been deployed, and you can basically go there and check it out. There is one trick, though. There has to be a trade-off, right, in everything. It cannot be just shiny and bright as gold. So basically, in this model, the dApp itself, before it uses Redstone, has to adjust its ethers.js or other JavaScript code, being able to attach to this transaction calldata the data package. So this is the main difference. And also, their own smart contract that is deployed to the destination chain should also have a two-line of code enabler of extracting the data from the transaction. So the integration is slightly different than traditional oracles, but as the presentation is titled, it's a new architecture, because we cannot keep doing the same way over and over. Like, you know what Einstein said, like if you're doing over and over the same thing with a wrong effect and you keep on doing that and expect something else, you're just, not necessarily on the right mind. How it looks on MetaMask, because as you know, it's in calldata, so you should be able to see it in the MetaMask transaction, and that's exactly what you can do. So if you in MetaMask go to the hex part, you're going to see bytes delivering these data packages to on-chain. So it's very visible for the user over there. However, the user doesn't see it right away. He or she can check it out if it's present over there, but from the user perspective, the usage of the dApp itself is seamless. It doesn't give any other, like bottleneck over there. So how it looks on our web app. For example, for Ethereum, you can go to our web app, which is app.redstone.finance, and you can check for Ethereum, we have 40 sources. Altogether, we have like 70 for all the assets, but for Ethereum specifically, you have 40. We give you median, but you can also choose other metrics that you want. And you can also see the differences between different data providers. It's not only up to that, we also created something that we call custom oracles. So it's for testing purposes rather. If you're a developer, for example, for a hackathon or any other purpose, and you want to create a new data feed with low cost, you can just go to our web wizard and create a custom oracle based on the API and JSON path. So for example, here you can see temperature in Warsaw, my hometown, how it has been changing, and you can use it in your smart contract. It's not super like mainnet ready, I would say, if you create it that way. If you find it usable, then you just come to our team and we make it deployable on a ecosystem that you wish to go to. So as I said, Redstone is the first data provider in the whole ecosystem. So how would you see, for example, us as the data provider? So we take data from reliable data sources, first off-chain, so enterprise-grade data providers, Kaiko, Flow Traders, CoinGecko, CoinMarketCap, and a couple of others. We integrate it with over 50 biggest DEXs, and we pull data all the time about various tokens. It's not only up to that, we also have on-chain data that you need. For example, we can deliver TWAPs. Right now we are working on LWAPs, so liquidity-based. LP tokens, so for example, staked AVAX or staked other tokens, liquid state tokens, NFT data, and much more. So we have, 70 sources, over 1,000 of assets right now, and over 4 billion data points. What are the benefits of such design? So I'm still talking about the first core on-demand oracle of Redstone. So first, it's scalable. What scalability means nowadays? It means that you can add new things, and basically the costs are not growing exponentially. So in that case, we are very scalable. We cover over 1,000 assets and non-standard data. So for example, if you need temperature or results of a games or something else, we can deliver that fairly easily. We have 10 seconds refresh interval. Like comparison to 10 minutes, it's quite an enhancement, but we can go even sub-seconds. So right now we are experimenting on Arbitrum if we can deliver data as fast as every block on Arbitrum. If we manage to do so, it's going to be a sort of fucking breakthrough, like truly. Last but not least, as I told you, like other oracles take the same data feed and they push it to many chains and they bear the cost of the same data. In our model, we are cross-chain by design and we have no gas waste. So you only pay for the gas on the destination chain only when it's needed. So it's like the efficiency to maximum. If you see any like improvement in the efficiency, please contact me after the presentation. I'm very happy to hear that because that's what we optimize for. And if you go to app.redstone.finance, you can browse through the data that we have. All right, so for now, I was talking about the first core Redstone model. Now I'm going to talk about Redstone X. It's a front-running proof model. It's very sexy. It's a result of talking with a lot of perpetual protocols like GMX. So in this flow, bear with me. First, user interacts with the dApp and sends the transaction to the chain. Example, opening a short position. So it sends to GMX, open a short position. Then GMX sends the transaction on Arbitrum. It's recorded on chain, but it's not executed in block N. Then, again, we have this data delivery network, and everyone can create and act as a resolver that fetches data from this data delivery network, fetches this transaction from blockchain, and connects to this calldata, the price feed. So you see you have block N from a price P to block N, and then it goes back to GMX, so the dApp, which sends it to the next block and executes in N+1. So we get a small delay, like one block, but considering Arbitrum is super quick, it's not that much of matter for the user, but we get super efficiency when it comes to making sure that the transaction itself and the protocol is not front-run. So it's tailor-made for perpetual and options. It's more expensive than the previous one because over here we have to, like adjust for a specific dApp. It's not like generalistic, but still, if you're playing the perps game, one thing you want to make sure is that your Oracle delivers up-to-date data on a short manner. So as I said, we cover all EVM chains, but it's not sexy. We also go beyond, as mentioned before. What about adoption? So one of the most sexy DeFi protocol in the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks has been Delta Prime. You can check it out on DeFi Llama. So guys do leveraged prime brokerage accounts. We also provide our infrastructure for a suite of protocols. We are at the final stage preparing solutions for protocols such as Poolshark on Arbitrum and Fuel, Olympus DAO that you might know fairly well. So these guys actually in December last year experienced price manipulation, and they came to us and said, hey, like we cannot bear with that anymore. Can you solve that problem? And we literally on hands sit down with their developers. We created like a dedicated solution. We did analysis of the previous hacks. So we are very much aware of the whole course of history. And Mento Labs is also a huge protocol, like a position 50 in DeFi Llama when it comes to TVL. It's on Celo and also Ethereum. We are creating like a tailor-made solution to them. Redstone has been in production for over 10 months right now in mainnet without any interruptions. For the past 10 months, you remember there was like Terra, there was FTX, there was Celsius, there was a lot of shit happening on the market itself, and we didn't have a single hiccup. When it comes to security, our founder is ex-Open Zeppelin smart contract auditor, so he has seen thousands of attacks vectors. So he eats and breathes EVM and also other architectures. We got 2 independent audits from ABDK and PackShield. Also, co-founder of L2Beat did an audit for our code. And as I mentioned, 80% of our team are developers. So tech-first approach is definitely something that defines us. So going to the end of the presentation, let me bring up one of the use cases, like real-world use case Delta Prime on Avalanche right now. So how their model works. You've got a borrower, like regular on Aave or something else, that needs to put some collateral. Imagine 1 AVAX. On the other hand, you have a pool from which you have to take the borrowing. And all of that is put into a single smart contract. 1 smart contract is per user, and it's called like a prime account, where you can take up to 5x of what you put in. So if you put in 1 AVAX, you can borrow up to 5 AVAX, right? So their regular thinking would be, okay, that doesn't make sense. I just run out, I put one AVAX, I run out with 6 AVAX, and yeah, whatever. However, you cannot do that because the smart contract restricts you, and bots always look at your health factor. So if you go below a certain health factor, you're going to be liquidated. What you can do with this money, so imagine you borrowed 3 AVAX, so you have 4 AVAX. You can go to various protocols that the guys integrated, and via this smart contract interact with them. So on Avalanche, for example, you can trade on Pangolin or TraderJoe. You can stake or Yieldiac. So in the past weeks, the highest APY was on GLP leveraged via Delta Prime or Yieldiac. That was a crazy good strategy. Or you can do also liquidity mining. And for all of that, RedStone delivers price feeds. And I was talking with the CEO of Delta Prime, and he explicitly said, Marcin, but for RedStone, our model would never be so efficient as it is right now. Maybe it would be possible, but for sure not so efficient. So this is just to give you an example on hands. And one thing I also want to shill slightly is this ETH Warsaw conference, a hackathon I organized. It's also like a huge effort of Shannon from ETH Denver, because she helped us with the first edition that was last year. This year it's end of August, beginning of September, so I would very much like to invite all of you to swing by. So this is all for the presentation. I still have 3 minutes, 40 seconds. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you these apps I was talking about earlier. So this is app.redstone.finance. You can see over here that there is over 1,000 of assets. We've got crypto assets, but we also have NFT floor price. We've got stocks from various exchanges, mainly US. We've got Forex. We've got ecosystem-specific tokens. This is something that we see a lot of interest right now. So yield-bearing tokens or tokens that are only available on a specific chain. Custom oracles, so you can check what others are building and they're trying out. We've got grains. We've got energies, commodities, you name it. And this is this lens score I was talking about. So for example, if you go to stani.lens on Lens, you can see like how much Stani's activity on Lens has been giving him more and more score in this particular sense. All right, then when it comes to this showroom, the RedStone.finance, you can see a suite of ecosystems that we integrated with. It's not all, but it's majority. So for example, over here I have my wallet and a demo contract on Girly testnet on Ethereum. If I click get prices, what happens? I'm sending a transaction to Girly ETH. Together with my transaction to calldata, the price feeds are attached. And then from the smart contract, this front end just reads what's over there, what's been delivered. So I click get prices, the transaction is sent, and then you have displayed the block number, the timestamp when the price has been delivered, and a sample of prices. So over here are BTC, ETH, BNB, and so on. So you can check it with all of the other ecosystems over here. And here you can see a specific for Starknet because it's not EVM. So the flow works the same. However, there are some slight changes underneath. And last but not least, maybe what I would like to show you is this Delta Prime. So basically, I would have to switch to Avalanche. But you can see how much you borrowed, what's your collateral, and you can browse through various tokens. And maybe I will do it quickly. Ooh. Okay. So you can even see that right now I have a position over here. I don't remember on this account. Yeah, the internet is not the best. So here it calculates the APY that my account like altogether gets. Here's my health factor, so it's 40%. It cannot go to 0. And at the moment, you can see that I have a borrow position of 200 USDC. And I went to farms. And for example, for this specific account, I took GLP and I staked all of it. So right now, current APY is between 23% to 77%. It has been way, way higher. But basically, the capabilities of this platform are really, really huge. So I've got half a minute left. So maybe, OK, still this ETH thing, if it's going to load. But here you are going to see like the history chart of price feed for Ethereum for the last hour. So This is all I wanted to convey to you guys. Thanks a lot for everyone that hasn't gone asleep. And if you have any questions, please do come and chat with me after the presentation. Thank you.